Emmanuel Taban. Welcome back to the Spark 8 podcast. It has been a busy week.
Yeah, Patrick, thanks for welcoming me. It's exciting to be back here. Yeah, and it has been a very busy week indeed. Very, very
I
busy,
know,
especially back home in South Sudan. Yeah.
I know. And I know you have lots of updates for us,
Oh man.
especially
Yeah, of course.
following the. Yeah,
There's no way you can run sort of stories when you following politics in South Sudan. I mean, every day almost comes with its news story. So yeah,
I know.
it's always there that every day there must be an update on the political happenings back home there.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And just after the sacking of Dr. Benjamin Bol Mel, a few days or a week ago, we've seen basically on Monday like one of, I think, the biggest reshuffle with the 9 decrees literally issued in one night, and that was on Monday. And I'm just wondering for you, why now? Why all those decrees?
I mean, like perhaps President Kiir, I think there's no way he can stay for weeks without filling those vacant positions. Of course, the other week we all know that he removed Vice President Mel from his position, and in fact, so many people were expecting that the following day he would actually make an appointment, bring in Ball's replacement, but it didn't happen. So he took a break over the weekends, and then on Monday, that is when he made the issued series of decrees that did not only bring in Ball's replacement but also swept off some leaders and brought in a new one. And I think Kiir couldn't just like let the positions be vacant at that time. So it was the right thing to bring um, uh, the people at the right time, because I mean, in a country like that, if you keep silent for some time, then you're creating some kind of a uh, controversies in the mind of people. What you're thinking, people start having different perception. Yeah, but I think he did the right thing. He made the replacement so fast. Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of these reshuffles, they cause a level of worry, especially amongst us as the ordinary citizens of South Sudan.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's so many people who. I mean, one thing that people I think are failing to see is that, you know, and I'm seeing it as a danger, is that we are normalizing it. It's becoming like a culture now. I mean, it doesn't even worry the people anymore. People know that every week or so, the president has to issue a decree relieving people, and that is the danger of it when it becomes a culture, a continuous practice. So I think you know the impact of that, and if there's any reason why people should get worried about these frequent decrees issued, it's not even about maybe the impact that the people who get removed, maybe at some point will defect and come back and wage some kind of revengeful fight against the president or government. But if there's one thing that people should get worried of, is the consistency and the normalization of this practice. Because if it is done like this, honestly, we are not going to have very good institutions built, and this at the end of the day goes down to the common person who get to be affected, and that is the danger of it. Yeah, it's the danger of that.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And I feel like honestly, like I think we have discussed this in another episode. Uh, the problem with this constant reshuffle of the cabinet is that these appointed officials do not have enough time to actually build the strong institutions or to make, let's say, strong improvements in those
Right.
institutions and their ability to deliver services to the communities.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the huge, because I mean, you bring in someone today and then let them be in that position maybe for months or a year. I mean, a year is not enough. Even like 5 months, these are not enough for a minister to probably stabilize a ministry and come up with his plan, how he intend to make things, how like what policies he intends to initiate that can maybe impact on the broader society. It becomes really hard when we see this thing happening consistently, that someone is not given much time to put down what they want to deliver in that specific ministry. And yeah, but it's just unfortunate that it's becoming a culture back home. But it's a worrying scenario right now. It should be a worrying thing to every South Sudanese that we are normalizing it. And when I see how people react to this, like every time the president issues it, it tells you clearly that people are getting used to it and they don't care anymore. They don't really care.
Yeah, and honestly, there's almost like no stability in these institutions, as we have seen recently.
No stability at all. No stability. I was just trying. If I'm to give like just a rough number, I think right from 20, not 2018, but this year alone, I think the finance and economic planning ministry alone has changed like over four ministers. I mean, if they are the same people, but at least the changes has happened like four times or so. So and you can see like a very very prominent ministry in a country
Yeah,
such as the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, that is supposed to, I mean, that is the engine of the entire country. The finance ministry plays a very very vital role. In other countries, that is the national treasury of the country. I mean, it controls the national resources, the national money. I mean, that is done by the finance ministry. And you can see that if you have like different people coming in within a very short time. So it poses like so many questions about one, um, like even the intention of these people, because they know that if they get into that position, perhaps they only spend like a little time before they are kicked off. So you see that someone comes into that lucrative ministry with intention of of skipping out with with something, because they know they're not going to survive there anyway. So they need to package themselves before they leave the ministry, and by the time they are shown the exit door, at least when they already have something in their pockets. And that creates a lot of governance issues within the country. It really really does. And it's not only the Ministry of Finance. We have seen this so many times. Even the vice president's position, we have seen several changes coming in over and over again. And yeah, but in the entire thing, it creates a lot of issues about the governance of the country, building strong institutions, trusted institutions, and students that are accountable. It's hard to attain it when we have this practice done every time.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think I agree with most of what you've said,
All right.
because I also feel like honestly, this kind of a constant reshuffle, what it does is that, just like you've said, it encourages a culture of corruption. It
Right.
encourages a culture where these ministries and institutions that are ideally supposed to be accountable to the community become sites of corruption, become
Exactly.
sites of looting, become sites of embezzlement, and very many other um, acts that are really not in the interest of the
Mhm.
public.
Right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you are right.
Yeah, that's quite unfortunate. And honestly, so when you look at the reshuffle that happened last Monday, um, do you think it was the largest, like single night reshuffle that we've seen since the 2018 peace deal, or do you think there are larger ones that we've had?
It really becomes even hard to track which one is the largest, because we had, I mean, several of them that happened right from 2018. We have so many that are in one day is actually, uh, we've seen like over 10 institutions being affected in the previous. I don't think this is the largest, but I feel it's it's one of kind. And but the magnitude, the kind of people it brought in, and I think it's so heavy, because we've seen in one that brought in some changes into the VP position, and around four or three cabinet ministries, and then we have seen also the IGP. I mean, and some um, uh, how do you call it? Like I think ambassadors and kind of thing, envoys and
Yeah,
what. So yeah,
presidential envoys.
I would say it's not the largest, but it's one of the largest in the country. And I know if we are to go and track all the decrees issued by the president, there's possibility of us finding one that is greater than the one that happened last week. I mean, this week, early this week on Monday.
Absolutely. And I
Right.
think we can definitely see that one of the most historic reshuffle I think that we've seen as a country perhaps is the one that happened in 2013,
Yeah.
December 15th.
Yeah, that is the they call it the mother of reshuffles. It's
Right.
the most that's the most significant cabinet reshuffle that actually gotten the country to where it is today. So it's undeniable, and yeah, that was the massive one. I think that would remain in history as one of the most impactful cabinet reshuffles that have actually impacted on the future of the country. That would go down in history, definitely. Yeah, the one that happened in 2013, pardon, in December, I think, around 16
Yeah,
December,
December 15th, I think.
15, yeah,
December
that one.
15th or early.
Yeah, around
Yeah,
that. Hmm.
yeah,
Right.
definitely. And you know, it's quite interesting. Like for me, when I watch the news and see how sometimes the people who are either fired and those who are brought in, and sometimes how these are people that previously had been fired and
Hmm.
now they're brought back again. I just
Hmm.
wonder, like, what does this say? Imagine if these people have been there the whole time in the first place. Imagine
Yeah,
maybe the kind of changes they would have made,
exactly.
because it so appears that at one point they trusted this person so much, maybe in between something happened, then they had to let them go, and again they realized, oh no, I think they are the right people for the job, so they are brought back again.
Yeah, I think that clearly exposes the president's level of indecisiveness. I mean, there's no way you can dump someone today and then you go back to them and claiming they are the best. And then we have seen this happen so many times. This happened with the CDF, uh, like the current chief of defense forces, that is Paul Nang. He was previously removed and replaced, and then he was brought back. The current minister of finance and economic planning, that is Barnaba Back, he was previously removed and replaced and again brought back. The same person, James Wani Igga, who was then the vice president economic cluster, was, I mean, it clearly exposes that sometimes the president is maybe um, he doesn't really make very good decisions, or if he does, I think there is. It tells me like there's a small clique of people maybe within his circle who are actually trying to ill advise him at some point. I always maintain the point that the president has some good advisors, sometime maybe, but also there are a section of people maybe in his circle who are trying to influence things happen, and that can easily be seen in some of the decisions that he make. I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. If you use common sense, you're removing someone on some basis. You don't even, and one of the funniest things that happens with this decrease is that the president doesn't come out openly and tell you the reason why they're actually removing someone. He didn't come out and tell us why Benjamin Bol Mel is removed, what crime he committed, and so with the other ministers and other leaders in the military or even in the civil service. This all happened. There's no any reason why, uh, any written statement that accompanies these decrees. So it really becomes very hard for us to tell his intentions or why he is acting indecisively. That he is unable actually to identify that someone is capable or incapable and try to leave them. I mean, we have so many South Sudanese in the private sector in different aspects of life who are well versed. They have the skills, they have the credentials, and they have actually learned how things are supposed to be done. And therefore, they should have been given the way. If you don't trust someone, if you have lost hope and trust that someone is not going to perform, then why again go back to them and bring them, giving way to a new person who perhaps will bring the change you've been looking for? So I think that is one thing that this decrease actually exposes, that either the president is acting, being indecisive. He doesn't have like, he doesn't also have maybe the ability to identify someone who can do the job very well, because and one of the qualities of, I always argue that one of the qualities of a good leader is the ability to identify someone who can actually deliver your plan. What do you plan for the
Mm.
people? Kir is a seasoned politician, is a seasoned leader. He should understand very well the people that are close to him. Who are those people that are capable? I mean, he has been in the trenches with some of these generals that are right now serving. He should have understand their personalities very well, their ability to perform tasks, and that shouldn't give him hard time. But it's unfortunate that it's happening at this time, that the president is acting indecisively, and it's unfortunate. Yeah,
It is.
yeah,
And I think I agree with you that to some extent, what we have seen is definitely a show of the indecisiveness of President Salva Kiir. And I
hmm,
feel that this has, to some extent, affected our economy and, in a way, allowed for this volatility that we've seen in our economy to just to continue and to
right,
get more worse and worse
right,
by the day.
right. That's that's true. That's true. And I like, I think all the president needs to do is just have the goodwill. I mean, the president has the power to change everything in the country. I mean, South Sudan doesn't really need so many years to change. It only requires goodwill from its leaders, and that's all what's needed. If the president can come out and show that will, that maybe in 4 3 or so years I want to see this country different, he has the power to do that. He has that power. He has the power to bring in the right people, keep them there, build institutions, strengthen security around himself, build that trust with people that he maybe at some point losing trust with them, so he feels comfortable. I mean, it all starts from building that goodwill. I think he just needs to show that he needs to exhibit that, and everything would be good for the country. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
And looking back at the, the reshuffle that happened on Monday, uh, I think you probably have seen this that Dr. James Wani Igga was reappointed as the vice president for the economic cluster. And I'm just wondering, what does this send to the equatorial region and maybe the international community?
I think the reappointment of Iga wasn't a surprise. I mean, we had in our previous episode we discussed about this, and I gave two options. That one person that would probably come in as Bol's replacement is either Adut Salva Kiir, who is the daughter to the president, or President Kiir would be tempted to actually go and revisit his political garbage bin and recycle Iga. And that is exactly what happened. He went and brought back Iga, reinstated him as the vice president for the economic cluster. And I think last time also I said the reason why Iga stands high chances of being reinstated is because he possesses all the qualities that Kiir is seeking from someone to occupy that position. One, a guy who doesn't pose a threat to his leadership. And second, a guy who is easily disposable, who at any point, if Kiir wants, he can dispose him and he's not going to do anything to Kiir. But also a guy who is very loyal to him. And I say that over the years, Iga has actually exhibited that art. He has mastered the art of loyalty, and he has acted so loyal to the president. You remember in 2013 when the cabinet was reshuffled and Machar was removed from his position as the vice president, and at some point Iga was reinstated as the vice president as Machar's replacement. But when the war happened, that in 2013, and kind of peace agreements was made in 2014, an agreement was signed, and it was decided that Machar should be reinstated even after fighting the government and creating all the chaos. So Iga was asked to do that, and he was disposed. He accepted it, and he allowed Machar to come. When even people knew, there was actually an argument that before Machar, Iga was supposed to be a vice. I mean, he was the only immediate person that was close to those of Garang and Kir, taking the history right from 1991, where Machar had defected, and he was actually contrary to the struggle SPLM. He was working contrary to the SPLM movement because they had formed what we call the Nasser function, which was so much allied to the North and not actually fighting in interest of the Southern Sudanese. And by that time, people argued that the right person who actually deserved to be the vice president, then that would get the country to independence, was Iga. But Iga was disposed, and then Machar was reinstated. And again, when in recently in February, when he was disposed and Bol Mel was brought in, he had nothing to say. I mean, he accepted that, and he was given position in the party, but again later taken out. So, as I said, that Iga has always possessed those qualities that President Kiir is seeking from a person who can occupy the VP position. And it didn't take me by surprise to see that he was reinstated. Very exciting. But then to the Equatorians, I don't see any impact. That it's more of just a representation in the presidency, and that's what I'm seeing it, because we have a regional balance, because we have the president who's coming from Baral Khazar region. We have Tabandeng guy who's coming from Upper Nile region. We have Mama Nyandeng who's coming from Upper Nile region, and probably we'll have Machar reinstated, who's coming from Upper Nile region again. And I feel that we might likely see a changes a little bit, because I don't think if Kir is going to keep two Equatorians in the presidency for the purpose of regional balance. Because right now we do have the daughter to the former liberation fighter, that is Josephine Lagu, as the vice president for service cluster. And you remember when Iga was removed from the position and Ball brought in to create that balance, that regional balance, Kir had to take off Abdel Baghi, who was uh, the vice president for service cluster, and brought in an Equatorian in the names of Josephine Lagu. I think just to bring in that regional balance. But now I'm seeing that with the coming of James Wani Igga back, we are likely to see Josephine Lagu losing her position as well. I think that is one thing she should get worried about, because I'm not seeing it that Kir finds it so fine to keep two Equatorians in the vice president position. So we're likely to see in the next few days or so another another reshuffle or a decree issued, maybe taking out Josephine Lagu and bringing in a different person to the vice president. But that's just a prediction. That is, I'm suspecting that might happen based on how the things have been happening in the previous months or days. So, yeah. And to the international community, as I said before, that every time we see decrees issued and people removed and new ones brought in, it only sends one message to the international community, that there is political instability in the country. The government is not stable at all, and that also makes them create the fear that maybe the country is at the verge of getting back into war, because they always know that these politicians have the same traits, that when they remove, they get angry. When they get angry, they go in the bush and fight back the government. So I think that's the message that the international community gets every time they see cabinet reshuffle in Juba. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And definitely, and I think from what you said, it is very clear that this was a very strategic move from President Salva Kiir
Hmm.
to basically keep loyalists around himself as a
Right.
way to safeguard his power and, uh, and make sure that he holds on to that at least
Hmm.
for some time.
Exactly. Right. That's right. Yeah. But you know, it's all about keeping your people who are so loyal to you. You know, as I said last time, in a country such as South Sudan, you don't want to keep people you don't trust, right? You need people always who you trust, because history has shown that when you associate with yourself people that you don't trust 100%, there's possibility of them actually toppling your government. So I think that's what Kir is looking for. He wants loyalists around himself, and that's what exactly he has done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think for me, it begs the question, this need to surround himself with loyalists, at what expense does it come? Does it come at the expense of skills and competence? Does it come at the expense of people who would have the capacity to, let's say, secure the country and ensure economic stability in the country that we haven't seen in a while?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that at some point it really doesn't come with that consideration. You know that what they consider solo is thus the loyalty, and they don't mind if you you have some kind of expertise or you someone who is capable, as long as you're loyal. So that gives you the leeway to come into this serve into these positions. So it's unfortunate that sometimes they do, but also I think there is no shortage of people who are loyal but still exhibit those experience and expertise or the ability to perform. There's so many people who can be very loyal to the president. I mean, he knows it very well. And I was just kind of impressed with a few kind of appointments that were made, especially the one of Athena Wake Athene. I mean, that was a very, very, very. I was actually expecting that to come. Before that came, I just wrote like on Facebook a few, I think, minutes before the decree. I was like, Athena Wake deserves the docket of the ICT, and really from the way how I've seen him, I think he is one of the most progressive minds in the country right now. He probably understands. He is a professional, and he has been in that field, a journalist by profession, and he knows how to relate with the public, and that is one skill that is much needed with someone who acts as government spokesperson, but also the Minister of Information. You know, you get to create that conducive environment between the government and the people. So I think but he has been a very, very, very long time critic of the government. Before he was even appointed last time as a press secretary for the president, he was a very, very good critic for the government. I mean, he criticized the government on so many issues. And after that, he was brought in as the press secretary. But when he got removed, and he has been living in the political wilderness all this while. And he has also he has been a very vocal, trying to be relevant, attending some youth sessions around Juba, and just trying to keep himself within to continue being relevant. And with his appointment, I really think there's so much that he is going to creating that conducive environment between the government and the people. I think that was one of the most important appointment, and there's so many other appointments that actually I was impressed with, and but the one with of Athena Wake was outstanding, and I was so happy when I had that. And just today, when I was going on the Facebook, I saw one of his videos. I think during his homecoming what celebration, he gave a very, very promising statement where he said the Ministry of Information is going to be a home for the journalists, where when they find that they are getting arrested for issues of violation of the constitution, when they are performing their duty, they should run to the ministry for safety, and that is how the ministry is supposed to be. And that if any journalists get arrested in the due process of doing their job, they should give him a call. He's always going to be open, and he will always be there for them. I think that's a very, very huge and very important statement, uh, which I feel that being the minister, he can perhaps work on some policies that can promote the freedom of speech and expression in the country. Because for a country to develop, really, there's need for people to have public debates on issues of the country. We need to have open platforms where people get to criticize some policies that the government is trying, but also the government comes out and defends some of the policies that they are doing, so that if they are really important, they get to convince the people that these are the policies, these are our intentions behind these policies, and people can easily create in that um, conducive environment between the people. And that is the ideal of leadership, is to be a link between the people and the government, which is very important. I was impressed when I saw him appointed as the Minister of ICT and Postal Services. I think that was a very smart move by President Kiir. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I agree too. Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's super important, definitely, to have spaces that allow for freedom of speech and expression. And I think these platforms are super important also for promoting public dialogue and
Exactly.
reconciliation, which we really need a lot as South Sudan, given the history and some of the horrible things that have happened in the country over the
Right.
years.
That's right. That's right. We're seeing like only a few spaces. We really don't have so many spaces that can bring in the leaders and the members of the public together to converse on some issues. It's a very important step. I mean, for a country to, people are not enemies. Leaders are not your enemies, and the public, you're serving them. So therefore there should always be consistent uh, uh, a deliberate move by the leaders to engage the people, because if you engage them, you get to listen about their cries, what they want, what are the challenges they're going through, and that informs your policies, that informs the decisions of the government that you should take. I mean, if you don't get to listen from the people, then what are you going to initiate? What policies, what plans are you going to initiate that can help them if you don't listen to them? I think having such platforms are really, really very important. And with the coming of Athena, I think he should do that. And yeah, which is very important. Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right. Hmm.
I agree. And I think what we wait to see is the action bit of what he has said. Hopefully, he can deliver on the statement
Exactly.
that he made.
Right.
And I love something you said, uh, that South Sudanese leaders are not our enemies as
Hmm.
the public. And I think the other way around is true. The public leaders of South Sudan should know that the public is not their enemy as well. And so when they're giving us the spaces, when we are demanding for the spaces to be able to freely express ourselves and be able to contribute to public debate and public dialogue, they shouldn't see that as a threat. And I think some of these spaces extend to include things like, for example, protests.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's true. I mean, protest and freedom of expression and the freedom to picket. I mean, these are constitutional liberties that are enshrined almost in every country's constitution. They are there, and in, on some international charters. I mean, that most countries are part of. So it gives you people the rights to go on the streets and protest. And the one thing that maybe people are not understanding, most of the leaders are not getting it right. It's that they feel when people go on the streets, they want to topple their governments. I mean, no. When people go on the streets, they're just simply telling the government to act, calling the government to act right, or maybe they are trying to express their dissatisfactions. And in the process of policy formulation is that there are some steps where you get to, in many countries, like policies are informed by by I mean, when a situation arises, when there is a need for something, and you develop policies to settle that specific problem, or you develop solutions to do that. And there's a way where people bring up things. If people are not satisfied with the way how things are done in it could be in their constituency or in the country, in the broader country, what they do is that there are people who come up with that. We have the civil society that comes up and speak about this to tell the government to act. There's also the members of the public. They can come up through protest or demonstration, just writing on their cards and moving on the streets, telling the government to act, not necessarily to overthrow or to topple your government, but they're just telling you to act. And it should be those complaints presented in those ways that should actually inform the government decisions or the way on how they should create solutions to their country. And if they don't give people these platforms, then it becomes so hard for the government to know exactly what the people want, because every time people comes on the street trying to express themselves, telling the government what is not going right, they are shut down. then the people develop the tendency of always keeping quiet even when there are so many issues down, and therefore the government will not get to know about these things happening down there. And if the government doesn't know, of course, they will not act and they will not develop solutions to what this problem. And this is how countries or nations sunk. It's not good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
And I hope really that the new appointments help contribute towards, guaranteeing and promoting our liberties that are enshrined in our constitution of South
Exactly.
Sudan. Yeah, maybe moving a little bit far from that. So Michael Makwe has been moved
Hmm.
from the Ministry of Information to the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. And this is the appointment that everyone in South Sudan is talking about. Why is that so?
Very, very strategic appointment there. I think when I read that, it gave me a clear picture of what is likely to happen. But as I said, this is also a prediction that I am not quite sure that I things might happen, right? But over the years, McQuay has been he has been a hardliner. I mean, like, he has been calling Machar names, and uh, over and over again, he has come out as one of the most uh, hilarious but also intimidating cabinet minister in the entire country. So many people finds it so hard to interact with Makwe, yet he holds a very, very prominent position that should have actually given him the um, to interact with the public. But it becomes so really hard. The way how he engaged with journalists or the media houses, sometimes it's really so intimidating, and many people find him as a bully because every time he interacts, there's always one he tells you, if you feel this country is not good for you, then you have the you can just leave it and go where you feel it's better. I mean, he has been really a very, very a headliner for Kiir's government, and people know that very well. And he's one of the guys who has actually not been affected so much with all these political, I mean, cabinet reshuffles and what, McQuay and Martin Elia Lumro, who is the cabinet minister for cabinet affairs. I think these are the only few people who have actually not been affected with these cabinet reshuffles. But taking McQuay to the position of the Justice Department or the Justice Docket, I think it's a strategic move because I don't doubt his credibility. He is a lawyer by profession, and he acted as a legal counsel at some point. He also acted as a judge at some point, I think, at the court. So he really has all the credentials. He has the qualifications to serve. He has what it takes to serve in that position of justice. But then, what I think sparked the debate in so many people's mind is why now, or why at this point? And when we looked at the changes that came, you remember when the issue of Machar came up in early March about the Nasser incident, and he was locked in, and then they set up a committee of investigators to go and carry out, if at all he is associated with the incident that happened in Nasser. It was the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs that actually came out and read out the charges against Machar. Remember, it was the Honorable Dr. Akech Geng, who was the then former Minister of Justice. He came out and read those charges against Machar, and which actually initiated the court to be established and to carry out the prosecution of Machar. So, and over the time, as this trial was progressing, we have seen so many discussions about the possibility, and people were saying actually one of the guys who was so much uh, into these mm, trial of Machar was Mel. There was this kind of debate where people say Mel was the one behind this trial of Machar. He was feeling he doesn't want Machar to be there in the position and kind of all this kind of stuff. And you know, there was also these allegations going on. I don't know if it's true, but that's why I'm saying it's allegations that the prosecutors actually, those these lawyers who were the prosecution team, they were actually given a day like $6,000 per day, and they were funded by Mel. That's what I read the other day. So with taking out of Benjamin Bol Mel as the vice president economic cluster, and putting McQuay into the Justice Department, probably tells us that in the next few days we're likely to see like a change or a shift in the trial of Machar. And I can't tell exactly if it is a positive or a negative one, but if it is a negative one, it is going to. I mean, if it is a positive change in favor, because I mean we're likely to see that um, McQuay influences the decision that is going to be made in this case of Machar. Either one, making sure that Machar is made a free man, or the entire case is dismissed. It comes out and dismiss the entire case, or like, of course, being the Minister of Justice in other countries is referred to as the Attorney General of the country, and therefore in any case that uh, it's against the state, especially like the one going right now, it is the state against the likes of Machar. So the state has the right to withdraw the case out. You know, they can either say, okay, we're not interested in this case anymore. They can withdraw it out, and then Machar can be reinstated. So if there is any change that is likely to happen, we might see that. So yeah, I was saying we're likely to see a different shift in the case of Machar, either the case being dismissed by the same ministry that actually made the charges against him, which is now being led by McQuay, or we are likely, if it changes to be a negative one, then it's going to be a one that it's going to be so intense. But I don't really think Kiir wanted to make a political blunder in this case by by continuing with this case, and maybe hoping to see a verdict that can make Machar guilty of all the charges that were made. I mean, if he does that, then that would be a political suicide for him. I don't think if he will ever be interested in taking that direction. I don't think so. Yeah, but the appointment of McQuay to the justice, I think it's influenced by the ongoing trial of Machar. That was the major decision that actually influenced his appointment towards the Justice Department.
Right.
Right.
And when you look at how Michael McQuay has spent what, maybe 12 years calling Riek Machar a traitor, including on live radio, basically.
Hmm.
When you see his appointment, don't you think it is directly going to influence the results of the trial of Riek Machar in favor of the state?
I, I really don't think so. I mean, I really don't think if Kerry is interested, or if the state is interested in really continuing with the case of Machar. I don't really think so. They are interested, and as I said, that if they really decide to go that direction, I think it's a direction that will take the country down. And I don't see it being the right. I mean, uh, there are situations. Machar. I mean, Makwe might have been calling Machar names, and but also he has to know that uh, there is someone who is above him, and that's none other than the president. You might have said that based on the situations at time that were actually in play, but I think this is a time where you can take. I mean, politics. You don't have to in politics. You don't have to be constant. You know, the way how you act, the way how you don't have to be constant. You always have to be flexible in different situations. You don't have to remain rigid in the way of your thinking and the way how you relate with some people. And I'm seeing really that there is I see that there is a new kind of I think the president is really being fed with the new advice, I guess, if not from the daughter, I mean from someone. But I feel that the presence of Adud right now as a presidential senior presidential envoy, I mean, I feel like she's really making a very high influence right now in the government indirectly by advising the president. But some of the decisions that I see coming out, I just see them as her influence. And especially the one that led to the appointment of Mabur Garang. So many people claim a few weeks ago she was in Nairobi with Mabur, and then uh, later Mabur was appointed. And I think if there's no any political advisor for advisor for Kir who would actually mean good for him and wants to advise Kir to continue prosecuting this case to an extent where they uh, pass a verdict that finds Machar guilty. In that, I mean, we all know the impact of treason. He either go for life imprisonment or he's executed, which is not good. Which is not good. I don't think this will ever happen. And when it happens, the country will definitely go down. And I don't think Kir wants to see that happen, or any other leader, or even Makwe himself. He doesn't want to see that happen. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
And so Amnesty International and the UN have called the trial of Riek Machar as politically tainted. And I'm just wondering, like, the appointment of McQuay, does it kill any remaining hope of fairness in this trial?
I mean, the appointment of Makwe, I really don't. I'm not looking at it from the negative point of view, but I'm seeing, if the appointment of Makwe could even mean like uh, the results from the international community, maybe regarding the issue of my child. There's a way how the international community can punish you when they find that you are not doing things in their interest. They can withhold some kind of support that they are giving you, like make so much, insert a lot of pressure on you, even withdraw their embassies or their support from you, and in that way they're indirectly calling you to act in a very rightful way. So I'm not looking at the appointment of Makwe as a like a final nail maybe on the hopes of of the issue of my child, but it could be I mean driven by the positive move to actually suspend the case of my child, or even just influence some kind of verdict that can work in favor of my child, and then we see them released. Yeah, so and I think Kir by this time he should have been informed maybe by the intelligence of the country, or from the view how the public has been viewing this issue, and the international community. And for all this while the issue has been going, and there are so many negative I mean comments that is coming out from different people, the public, but also people, the international community. So I think he must be having now a clear indication of what he needs to do with the issue of Machar. And if he is someone who listens to the view, I think he's going to suspend this case or withdraw the case and reinstate Machar back. So the appointment of Makwe could even mean like a positive thing in favor of Machar and his co-accused, probably making an influence to see that they are made free people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I think I agree with your take that the appointment of McQuay could be a double-edged sword
Right.
in the sense that it could be what is needed maybe to break a compromise and maybe have this case
Right.
dropped or withdrawn altogether, and Riek Machar reinstated as the first vice president of South Sudan.
Right.
But also, there is the possibility of the exact opposite, which could mean, for example, maybe he is found guilty and he's sentenced to maybe life in prison, or he is executed, or he is exiled again. Do
Right.
you see this as the best scenario or worst case scenario that could happen?
Um, I, I think if they are to make um, an influence into this case, and then which is meant to maybe come up with a verdict and finds Machar guilty, then they will be left with only one option. The only option that is close to not being seen bad is maybe to exile him. But but again, I think that that's going to be like not in favor of so many people. So many people, Machar really has a very very huge command in the country. I mean, he has a very huge and grassroots command. So uh, but if they try to come up with that, so we're likely to see the country being destabilized again, in different areas. And yeah, but if I was here, I think I would just withdraw the case at the state. I'll task McQuay to make a statement and follow the right procedures and withdraw the case, and 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 just dismiss it, and then reinstate Machar back, perhaps. And maybe also that is the advice that he's getting from his advisors, maybe to take that direction. But as I said, yeah, it's a double-edged thing. So we might see it happen in the positive way in favor of Machar or against him. So we until the decision is made, it's hard for us to tell what this is going to be. Yeah.
I agree, and I think that, for example, if you're sitting on the other side of the aisle, and say, for example, that the court actually finds Riek Machar guilty of the crimes that he's been charged with, and say maybe he is pardoned by the president, or basically not sentenced at all, wouldn't that be unfair, especially to those that he has, uh, 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 to those that have lost their lives in the Nasir incident? Oh,
Um. Yeah, I think it would look so, but also as a leader, you have President Kiir has, I mean, within his powers to pardon any other person. But I'm looking at that being the wise decision, to either continue with the prosecution and finds my child guilty, and then he goes on and pardons him, and like, make that pardon for him. I mean, it makes him look like a saint. I mean, it makes him like someone who he will come out, like, people will see that, you see, he has been charged, was found guilty, he committed this crime, but the president came out and pardoned him. So I mean, he'll garner a lot of support and sympathy from the entire country. But I think it will also be unfair to the lives of those who were lost. Perhaps but to do that, they can as well generate a body of people who can do a compensation for the lives that were lost in Nasir. So they can initiate that, and if they are really serious about that, they can set up a team that can work towards the compensation of the victims of the Nasir incident. So they can time it that way, and then compensate them, the families and relatives of those who were killed in the Nasser incident. But then, yeah, I think that's totally up to President Kiir. He has the right to do that. But I think the only good thing that is good for just to create the perception in the eyes of the public is to continue with the case, but then influence maybe the judiciary, of which I don't advise to really do it, and come out with a verdict that Machar is not guilty. I think that is the most wise thing to do. You don't have to dismiss the case. One, if you dismiss the case, it will first look like you have wasted state resources in initiating a prosecution which you do not want to sustain. You'd have wasted the state resources in doing that. And second of all, uh, like, it doesn't really give the government a very good image. If you started something and then at the end of the day you withdraw it, it doesn't give you a very good, makes you put you in a good place. So suspending the case, to me, is not the best idea, or dismissing it is not a best idea. And charging my child with, I mean, finding him guilty and then want him to face the penalty for that, which is either execution or life imprisonment. It's not a wise decision either. um, uh, charging, I mean, finding him guilty and exiling him might be kind of, I would say it's a middle kind of thing. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either. So it can do that. But I think the best thing to do is to run the entire process up to the end, just insert some kind of influence somewhere, and that finds Machar not guilty. And when Machar is found not guilty, they reinstate him back. It makes the public believe that he has never done anything during the Nasser incident, but also that the government has not wasted resources in prosecuting him. They have done it up to the end, but the courts has found that he is not guilty. He is a free man. I think that is the best decision that they can do. But still, the government can look for ways on how to compensate the victims of the Nasser incident. They can work together with the opposition, after reinstating Machar, and compensate the victims of the Nasser incident. Yeah, I think that's the wise decisions to do.
That is very interesting.
All right.
Yeah, because for me, I think I feel that the trial of Riek Machar is a test of judicial independence in South Sudan. And if ever there is such influences as, for example, you are suggesting, I think this could be the thing that either breaks the trust of the public in these institutions, or that maybe either encourages or cultivates trust in these institutions.
Mhm.
And I think, for me, not as a politician, I would think that if the court can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that actually Machar is guilty or not guilty, that would be the best outcome. If the public is 100% convinced and the court is also convinced, whatever the verdict, it can
Yeah,
play a very critical role in
yeah,
building trust in these institutions.
I think that's right. I mean, so many people have always seen the trial of Machar as a test for the judicial system of the country, and yeah, of course, like, I mean, there's no doubt that uh, the judiciary or the court can still act independently without the influence of it. But as I said, that if I really don't. My own observation, and I've been following that case, but I don't really see that. I feel like most of the charges that were made are really politically um, generated, and they are just meant to taint the image of Machar, and that's my own observation. And I feel that if the judiciary is actually given a platform to act independently and with sober mind, I think they would really let Machar come out as a free person, as a free man. And then I think that's an absolute decision that is likely to happen. I mean, uh, the possibility of the judiciary, if given the space to act independently, they are likely to come out with a verdict that declares Machar as a free person, and that's likely to happen. But yeah, as I said before, I really don't encourage the government to influence the judiciary. But uh, but if they must, I think, but I don't think they will ever. There is a need for them to influence the decisions of the judiciary. But even the judiciary, if they're given to act independently, I think, based on the evidence raised and all the claims, I think Machar and his colleagues might come out as free people. Yeah.
Right. So if I get you well, in your own opinion, you would think that this is more of a political witch hunt than actually any case that
That's
exists
that's
against
that's my
Machar.
observation. That's according to my opinion. That's what I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it, and I think with the current, you can easily see it from the current shift in the positions in the government. I mean, the people, the charges were made when Bol Mel was the vice president, economic cluster, and when the other guy was the minister of justice. And why has it happened that these people were taken out at the same time, and a new person? So I mean, I think some of the decisions that actually informs the decrease passed, I think, are really based on the ongoing trial of Machar, perhaps. So we are likely to see really a very different shift in the next few days regarding the case of Machar, especially with the new people coming in power. Yeah, because
Interesting.
if I feel like if they really intend to keep on with this case of Machar, there's no need to change the minister. I mean, why change the minister? He is the one who initiated this. He has the he is like the attorney general. He has probably better information and knowledge of how all this is started. So it's in a very critical stage that you don't need to change that person really, because the stage at which the case is, you don't need to change bring in some kind of instability within the ministry. You should have he should have kept that guy to just continue with the consistency of the case. But suddenly he decided to change it. So I think that clearly tells us that there's likelihood of it changing, and perhaps it will be in a positive way. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So back to the issue of the appointment of McQuay as the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. Have there been any statements yet from the lawyers of Riek Machar with regard to this appointment? Or how are they reacting?
I I haven't read any reaction from the defense team, but and also the silence speaks a lot. I mean, because I've seen that I've seen this circulating online about I can't confirm if it is true, but I'm seeing ongoing debate about Machar Kir having like a private meeting with Machar. There's ongoing meeting, and there are plans of reinstating Machar, and this has been really ongoing on the social media. And since the appointment of Makwe to the justice, I've not seen any reaction from the defense team regarding that changes. And that perhaps will tell us that perhaps there's something going underground about this case that we might not understand. It can only be understood in the next few days when it actually takes the direction. So until that time, I think it's hard for us to tell exactly what these intentions are for the new appointments. Yeah.
I agree. Well, now looking maybe at one of the interesting appointments too, in my opinion, the appointment of the Inspector General of Police. So we see that the new person, Abraham Manuel, has been appointed. Was the Inspector General of Police for 21 months.
Hmm.
And within a short time, he has been sacked.
Hmm.
I think he was one of the people who was replaced on Monday. And I'm just wondering, like, why did Kir lose confidence in him so fast? Because it more or less mimics what has happened with Bol Mel.
Yeah. I think I told you that I really have no doubt that most of the appointments, the like those leaders who were taken out last in the last few days, I think the decision was mainly influenced by the ongoing trial, if I'm not mistaken. Because look at uh, the vice president, economic cluster. I'm told it was the one funding in the entire case. I'm not saying it's true, but the allegations about that. The Minister of Justice was the one that came up with the charges against Machar, and the police as well. They were part of this incident as well, because I think one of the police guy was acting as the investigator. So these are the people who actually carry out the entire investigation of this case, and they were looking at if Machar was really involved in, and being the inspector general of the police of the country. So that means he has really upper information and hands on these issues. So I feel like changing these people was really informed by the ongoing trial of Machar. So the police, who were part of the prosecution, acting as the investigation team, because among the prosecution team, we have the lawyers, we have the investigation team, we have the witnesses, and also these guys were all part of it. And I feel the decisions to take out the Inspector General of Police was as well informed by the ongoing trial for Machar. So I'm seeing like the major changes that happened last week were mainly informed by the ongoing trial. Yeah.
That is quite interesting.
All right.
So I have read comments online that suggest that Manuot, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but yeah, this Manuot who was basically removed, the allegations that he had refused to shoot protesters or to order the shooting of protesters. I don't know if you've come across anything like this, and I'm just wondering, like, if you know anything about this recording and this particular incident.
I I haven't really get into knowing so much about the former Inspector General of Police. So and also I didn't come across that story of him refusing to shoot the protesters. But if at all there is such information, I feel that. It might have also influenced it. But even why would someone be removed on the basis of refusing to shoot protesters? Isn't it the right way not to do that? Is that not the right way, that when someone is protesting you don't have to shoot it? I mean, there's no reason why someone should be removed on that basis. I mean, when a police, the major role of a police, the police is supposed to keep law and order. So if you're shooting protesters simply for just protesting, then that's not keeping the law of the country. The law of the country uh, uh, give the people the right to protest. So, as an inspector general of police, it is your duty not to actually order people to be shot. The protesters, not only protesters, but to protect the entire, making sure that people in the country adhere to the laws and there is order in every public space and everywhere across the country. So I think it will be unfortunate if it is true that the reason for his removal was because he refused to give an order to shoot protesters. I think that's unfortunate. But as I said, um, I never come across that comment, and also I haven't gotten so much into knowing about the replaced IGP. So, but yeah, it should be unfortunate if that is the reason for his removal.
Right. So on the issue of Riek Machar's trial, there are comments online that suggest that on Monday, when the decrees were read or being read, security around his house doubled. Should we read this as basically a routine precaution, or is that like more like a preparation for something bigger?
I don't see it like as a preparation for something, because even before the trial started, Machar was placed under, unlike the other other co-accused who were, I think, kept in real detention. Machar has always been put under house arrest. I mean, he is in his home, and therefore, if you are in your home, definitely you'll have to be. If you're under home arrest, so there is a possibility of people being around you, and I think the reason why maybe they beefed up the much security around his home is because of the intensity of the decrees that were issued last night. Perhaps people see that maybe there could be uh, uh, anything coming up because of the decrees issued, and maybe the military or the police try to just increase on the deployment around his home. But I don't see it like as a signal for something bad coming up. I mean, it's a routine. If he is put under house arrest, then there's need to deploy security personnel around his home to not only to protect him, but also to make sure that he does not escape, or something else. So yeah, but I think if there is an increase in deployment of police around his home, it's not mainly because something else bad is coming up. I don't see it that way. Yes, I'm seeing it as a routine protection that is offered to him because he's under house arrest.
Interesting. So if you look at the decrees that were read on Monday, and when you look at all of them together, do they signal that the 2018 peace agreement is effectively dead?
I mean, the peace agreement, I would say, if I'm given that, I'd even declare it dead before the recent decrease. I mean, because if we look at the peace agreement, um, the agreement is a composition. I mean, it came out as a result of different warring parties coming together. We have the SPLM in government, we have the SPLM IO, we have a South Sudan Opposition Alliance, we have the political detainees, and other people. So these all come, I mean, came together and formed the peace agreement. And therefore, the peace agreement, whereas it gave powers to the president to actually make appointments, but it didn't give like these absolute powers. And it said that in an event where there is need to create some kind of maybe appointments, it should be done in consultation with all parties, especially the SPLMIO. And and over again, I've seen that I think the president has taken like um, not a unilateral process of making appointment. I mean, he has taken it like his personal decision, deciding on his own and making appointment, and that is clearly against the peace agreement. We have seen the peace agreement, I mean, violated in so many cases where the countries, even in March this year, where there was violation of the ceasefire, where in Nasir there was exchange between the government. We have seen attacks in different parts of the country, in Morobo, in terms of a Nimule Road, where I mean, intercommunal fight that is mainly because of SPLM-IO and the SPLM party. I mean, to me, this agreement has not only been dead from last week, but even before that. So um, I think the decrease issued is a clear manifestation that it's actually it's dead right now. We have seen elections being postponed not once, not twice, but so many times. We have seen the lack of goodwill and political goodwill shown by the leaders to actually uh, take the country out of the transitional period, which is, I think, is deliberate. So, and this clearly tells us that the agreement has not been followed by all the parties, not only the SPLM in government, but also the SPLM-IO and other parties to the agreement. So I feel it's not only last week that the agreement is dead, but the agreement has always been dead. So the thing we are seeing is that the country is running on the mercy of God. So yeah, it's not informed, or it's not run based on the agreement. That's what, to some extent, maybe a few uh, instances we can refer it to the agreement, but most times I think it's not run by what is stipulated in the agreement.
That is a very interesting take.
All right. Mhm.
Yeah, and I understand, for example, that we are supposed to have our next elections in 2026. And I'm just wondering, like, for you, do you think that is possible? Are we going to see that happening?
Mm, I I I I think I'll be the first person to uh, to say no for an election next year. If at all we are having, I would rather opt for having an extension in the transitional period than having an election next year, because uh, what does having an election? I mean, there are prerequisites for having an elections. Before you have an elections, you need to carry out at least population census in the country that clearly informs the voter register, that gets the National Electoral Commission gets to know how many people in the country, how many are in the voting age category, that can tells us that maybe in these elections we have this number of people that are expected to go and vote, and we get to know them so that it informs the results of an election. We need to have a permanent constitution, a constitution that clearly informs a country how it's supposed to be governed. We don't have that done yet. We don't have a permanent constitution. For us to go into an election, we need to have like an open space given to all political parties to operate without without them being mistreated. They're given the freedom of association is given. I mean, all these are not actually, we're not seeing them happening right now in the country, and therefore, if we get tempted to get into an election next year, I think that would be one of the worst thing that will happen for the country. The country will really not be on the right side. I really want us to have a credible election, not just an election, and elections where, when we conduct it and the results is issued, you clearly see that this is the will of the people, and the person who loses does not have to come out and contest the results, and maybe try to defect and again come back and get the country back to war. We need a credible elections that is conducted in a free and fair manner, and I feel there's no any sign that the country is heading towards an elections next year. Uganda is heading toward an election, I think, early next year in January or so, but we can clearly see that happening right from last year, that the country is getting towards an election. You can see the campaign mode in the country. The country is getting, Kenya is heading towards an elections in 2027, but even right now you can see all the processes. You can see the moods of the country is, you can easily see that it's an election mode. So and we don't see it anything happening right now in South Sudan, and it's we are only like 12 months away towards 2026 December, the expected date for election. So I don't think we will have an elections in 2026. I would rather encourage us to have an extension than having an elections next year. Yeah.
Oh, elections cancelled indefinitely.
Sorry.
Oh, elections cancelled indefinitely.
No, I wouldn't encourage elections to be cancelled indefinitely. I mean, um, we should give ourselves, I think, uh, a, a very good number of years, and then we work toward that. And every, as I said before, that clearly, it's just a lack of political will from our leaders to really make sure we could have elections next year if the leaders are very very serious about it, but they really don't see that as something that they need to do it right now. But also having elections cancelled indefinitely, that means so much for the country. We will likely get into the worst situations that will take us time to come out from it. So it's better to have an elections conducted in the next few years, but not immediately next year. So we can give ourselves some time and make sure we have a constitution, a permanent constitution established. We have a space open for political parties, but also individuals to act freely. We have population census that informs our voter register. We have I mean, we create a fair environment where elections are done in the most free and fair way, and that when the results comes out, no one doubts about it. And I think that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
hopefully we get to see that happen. And
Right.
so President Salva Kiir is 74 years old, and he has had a lot of health issues recently. And I think you probably have seen him go to like UAE so many times for treatment and stuff like that. Who is being groomed as his successor? Or do any of the appointees that basically were appointed on Monday say anything about that?
Um, I wouldn't really say that the president is grooming someone, but we can easily see from his actions. I mean, the we can easily see as the who is right now within the government acting as the right hand of the president. So you don't have to really get deep into that before you realize. And yeah, but I think I was saying this, that so many people claim that Adud is being actually groomed into the throne, and there are people also who claim that even Adud is the de facto president. I mean, he's actually she's influencing, making most of the decisions right now indirectly, and the president is only occupying the position, but most of the decisions are being met by her. But I was saying this, that if I was really a dude, I wouldn't want to come into the presidency through that way. I mean, uh, she is the daughter to the president. Yes, we accept that. And just like any other South Sudanese protected by the laws, he has the right to serve in any position that he's appointed to. And he is a South Sudanese. He is a land person. He's young and probably bears the hope of the young people of the country. But as a daughter to the president, that alone is a privilege. Serving in that position of a special envoy, that is another privilege. So if I was a dude, I really wouldn't accept myself to come through that manner to the presidency. I would rather craft my own way, and that can I can do that from the position that I'm serving in today. Make sure I go across the country, engage the people, engage the young people, and in case elections come, I can influence. I tell my dad that maybe this is the time I want to take leadership of the party, go for the national convention and ask the people to vote for you to be the flag bearer of the SPLM party. Come through that man. I think it makes you well respected than when you're just getting groomed that way. When you're getting when you're brought up to power through the way how maybe the president just handpicked you and put you there. I mean, you lost respect from the people, and people see you as nothing but just because you're a daughter to the president. That's why you're quiet. But get it through the most uh, uh, good way. I mean, we have seen sons and daughters of former presidents that have actually came to the presidency not because they were just groomed that way and then picked, but they came through very, very interesting ways, and people live to respect them. Especially when we look at Kenya right now, the immediate former president is a son to the first president of the country, Uhuru Kenyatta. He was never handpicked. He came through all the necessary process, joined the political party, served in the lower position as a member of parliament, he served as a cabinet minister, he get to learn about how things are done. And then he went through leading the party, asking for nomination to be a flag bearer of the party, and he wins. He contested in elections, he fails, and then again try again, he wins. So that's how it should come. And right now, the only person that is respected in the country is Uhuru Kenyatta. He's respected more than the president, and that is because he came through a very, very good way. And I expect Adud to come also through that manner. She shouldn't really be in rush to get into the throne. I mean, she's pretty young and an exposed person. Perhaps she understands how things are done in other countries. She had the privilege to maybe live in other good countries that have a good democracies, and I think that is the thing that she needs to bring back home. Make sure that I don't have any problem if she advises the president at her stage right now because that is her work. But make sure the decisions you're giving the presidents are the good ones that can easily make the country look better, create the initiative. And when you do that, people get to love you naturally, not because you're a daughter to the president. People even forget the fact that you're a daughter to the president because I always have the argument that in the next few years to come, we are not really majority of South Sudanese who are exposed, majority of South Sudanese who are learned, who know how things are done in other countries, who really have the interest that things get to be done the way how other countries are done. They're not necessarily going to look to their leaders because they come from the Dinka tribe or the Nuer or they're Equatorians. They're not going to really get bothered so much when you're daughter to the liberation fighters, but all what they want is that you get to do the right thing at the right time, do the right thing for the country. That's all what matters in the next few years. And I think Adud is pretty young, whereas many people believe that she's being groomed for the throne. I hold the view that she shouldn't take it that way. She should always craft her own way of getting into power, and she should get it through a very, very credible way, not just being handpicked and because she's a daughter to the president. That will mean so much negative to her if she accepts to be done in that way. Yeah,
Yeah, she has to find her own path to the
exactly.
presidency.
Right. and
Yeah, and
and
I
I
agree with
think
you on
she
that.
is really a capable person, I would say, and I don't doubt her abilities. I mean, uh, she can easily create a very different path for herself and use it even to clean the image of his father, and I mean of her father and the SPLM party. She can revive the SPLM party into something interesting. I mean, there's no any political party right now that has the grassroots like the SPLM party, and I personally feel that if I am a registered voter and if I want to vote something, I mean, and the SPLM party at all have the good leaders who really possess what I believe in, I'll definitely vote for the SPLM party, because this is the party that everyone in the country grew up in, and they know that this is the party that actually had the interests of the people. And it's very easy just to go back to the drawing boards and know what this party represented before, what are the things they believed in, bring back those things to life, and just implement them. So easy. So you can easily win the support of the people. Yeah,
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing that happen.
exactly. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Um, I I I think one more appointment that that also there is the appointment of I think an envoy to the Middle East,
Yes.
which is I
Monica.
think Monica Achol or someone something else. Like I think
Yes.
Monica
Monica
Achol.
Achol Agwek.
Yeah, I think that that's really a very interesting thing that I am looking into right now. I'm not quite sure if we had an envoy before, or this is completely a new. Do you think it's a new thing? It's a new position, or we had it before?
I think we did have it before because it looks like she was just reinstated.
Right.
So it does appear to me that Achol has actually served as an envoy before.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but also I think her appointment to that position, especially the Middle East, clearly tells us about the South Sudan Middle East relations, especially the only country right now that South Sudan is exporting the oil is the UAE. I mean, in the last 4 years, the country UAE has been the one, I think, with 50% of the South Sudan oil, and I feel there is need really to strengthen that relationship between the Middle East and South Sudan, especially UAE. And I think that is the basis that actually informed that appointment. So it's also a very strategic one, especially given that the country has been depending so much on the Middle East, especially the United Arab Emirates, on so many ways, by the way, not only on the oil, but even in some kind of support. And that is where Key usually goes to every time for what they think it's a medical treatment. Though so far this year alone, he has visited the UAE 3 times. So that clearly tells us about the strategic importance of the Middle East, but also the United Arab Emirates. So I think our appointment is a very strategic move as well to strengthen the relationship between the two countries right now. Yeah, and especially the fact that South Sudan only depends on oil, and the UAE is one of the countries that takes much of the country's oil. So a very very strategic move there as well from President Kiir, I think. Yeah,
Absolutely. And hopefully, Monica will get to play a very significant role in
exactly.
revamping our oil sector because I think at the moment, oil production is at the historical low,
Hmm.
especially from South Sudan.
Exactly. That's right. Right.
Yeah. I wonder
Yeah.
what she's going to do different.
Well, let's see what's going to happen. Yeah, lots of things are going to happen, and yeah, but all in all, very interesting. I mean, I would actually say that out of all the appointments by Kir, I actually I was impressed so much by the recent appointment that was done. And when we look at the historical, I was so much disappointed at first when Peter Lambert, who was the then SPLM General Secretary, was removed from his SG position and just disposed. But I because like General Peter Lam, by the way, he has a very is I think he's a South Sudanese Canadian as well. So he has a very 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 good history. He taught, I think, in he was a lecturer in one of the universities, I think, in Calgary. He taught in Calgary. He has like a very very strong foundation of the SPLM. In fact, he ran some of the chapters, the SPLM chapters here in diaspora, for at some point. So he is really a very very good person, that well learned person, and perhaps with good intentions for the country, and also serving in the SD position. It's a very prominent position that you get to actually advocate for reforms in the party, and I think with his exposure to how things are done in other parts of the world, perhaps he would be the right person to bring in change. So I held the belief that or the view that Peter Lam was actually the right SG for that position, given the way how exposed he is. But when I saw him reinstated, I don't know if he has a history in the docket that is appointed to. That is one thing I need to find out. But I was happy when I saw him coming back again to the cabinet as a minister of what
Roads and
of
bridges.
roads and bridges. So yeah, but it's a good move. Seeing him coming back, I'm always impressed when I see people who possess the credentials, people who have the ability to do things are appointed into position. I was as well impressed by Mabior Garang when he was appointed as the Minister of Environment and Energy. I mean, a very incredible move by the president. We have seen how much. I mean, Mabior has been running his tomato movement. Uh, I mean, very very important thing that clearly tells us he has a vision for uh, the agriculture sector of the country, and I mean the environment as well. So it's a very strategic move, and the appointment of Athena were absolutely amazing. Taking Makwe to the justice docket, very strategic. And I think everything was really really working. And the appointment of Achol again, that was a strategic, so much needed to create that relationship with Middle East. So I think the entire appointment was really, really a very good one for me personally. I looked at it in this perspective, and it was one of the most amazing appointment. So many people were appointed; they were put on the right spot. Very, very strategic. These are the things that they have expertise in. McQuay is it's a lawyer by profession, and he acted as a counsel and a judge. He deserves to serve in that position. Athena worked professionally, a journalist, and he really deserves. He probably know the ethics of public relations, put in the information and government spokesperson position, very strategic. And Mabir Garang as well, based on his history of wanting to, I mean, the agriculture kind of thing. I think that means so much. And in all, that was a very, very good appointment by the president there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, and I think for me, I really look to see the changes that these individuals will make in the country in the coming months and years, if at all they will be there for years anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
So
what
as
we
we
hoping to.
wrap up, do you have any final thoughts?
I just hope that the president give a chance to these people to actually serve the country. I mean, it wouldn't look so much good when we have these people in the next few months again uh, removed from their position. Let's give them at least time to serve and they deliver. Let's get to know what are their intentions. What do they have that they want to deliver to the people? It gives us the chance to identify their ability, but also build institutions and build good solutions that would solve the problem that our people are facing. So I think that is one thing that the president needs to do. Perhaps if there is needs to make lots of changes, he doesn't really have to do with the cabinet. Perhaps majority of the changes, if he wants to make it, if he has insecurity kind of feelings, then he should deal with the military. But just leave the cabinet alone. Give the cabinet time so that it develops some good time to work on some of the things that needs to be done. Yeah,
Right. So we can have a stable leadership.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Working to stabilize the country and
exactly.
its economy.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Emma, for coming on to the Spark 8 podcast again.
Thanks. No, thanks, Parik. No problem. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you're a listener and you tuned into this episode, thank you very much. And we hope that you can leave us a comment and contribute to this conversation.
Sure.
And this has been the Spark 8 podcast. Take very good care of yourself. Until next time, peace.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good one. I think I like the flow of the